Story 1. This happened last night. I frequent an outdoor archery range at a large state park. The range doesn't have an on-duty safety officer, as there's only 5 lanes, which is fine as 99% of the people that shoot are extremely professional and polite. This is actually my first negative experience in about 2 years. So I have the range to myself, and as I'm drawing an arrow, some random kid comes out of nowhere and runs into the range right in front of me. I retract the bow and turn around and see a mom and another kid casually walking up to the tables behind the lane. One of her sons has one of those kids' compound bows, and the other has one that appears to be a wooden toy recurve, and it seems both are between the ages of 7-12. Exchange went like this. Me, hey ma'am, I'm going to need you to control your kids if you're out here. They can't be running onto the range when someone's shooting. Entitled woman, oh, it's fine, it's just you out here. Just don't shoot if they're out there. They won't be shooting next to you anyway. Me, no, if I'm shooting, they can wait for me to finish my set before they go out there. That's how this works. Entitled woman, don't tell me how to mother my kids. This is their free day, and they begged to come out here. At this point, I just said screw it in my head and decided to be patient. I was the only other one there, had already been shooting for an hour, and just wasn't in the mood to get into it with someone. So I continue and keep glancing over to the older son, whose little noodle arms can't handle the extreme 20 pounds draw of his bow. This kid is flagging everything as he struggles to draw a compound bow with his fingers. I figured I'd attempt to help him out. Me, hey man, I have an extra release in my bag. It'll definitely help you draw that easier. Entitled woman, what'd I just say? Don't tell my kids what to do. Me, hey, he's obviously struggling. I don't want to get shot either, and he's come pretty close to that too. If you attempt to talk to my sons again, I'm calling park police. I should have just left, but I love archery too much, and it was a beautiful day, so the kid gives up. I stop paying attention to them and continue my business. About 5 minutes later, I'm about to set my bow down when something flies past my face, maybe 5 feet away. I turn around and see this lady's kids running around behind the range shooting the bows at each other. Me, ma'am, not only did your kids almost just shoot me, but if a ranger drives by and sees that you're going to face a pretty hefty fine. Entitled woman, they're just toys. It's fine. No, it's not fine. The cops aren't going to see them with toys. They're going to see 2 kids shooting at each other with bows. You're lucky I'm patient. I'm done with you. I'm calling the police. Have fun rotting in jail when I tell them you threatened us. Excuse me? You know what? Fine, I'll wait here. Long story short, the park officer that showed up was actually a regular at the archery range. He recognized me thankfully, took a statement from both of us, and ultimately banned the woman from the range. She also didn't have a permit to be there in the first place, so she got fined as well. But honestly, what kind of a parent lets her kids do something that dangerous? Story 2. I'm a convenience store cashier, and besides the occasional robbery, nothing really happens here. We've had a handful of dramatic, get-on-the-ground robberies, but most are just regular shoplifters. Because nothing really happens here, I like to make small talk with the people in the store to pass the time. Sometimes people have great stories, sometimes we end up knowing someone in common, and sometimes it's just nice to make someone smile. The other day, I was out from behind the register stocking shelves. I was the only person in the store because weekday afternoons are usually slow, and because basically everyone has quit. It's getting cold here, and the building still hasn't turned the heat on, so I had a hoodie over my uniform short-sleeve shirt and name tag. So I guess I just looked like a guy browsing the aisles. But it wasn't a problem, because when a customer came in, I'd say, "Let me know if you need anything," and that usually cleared things up. Maybe 2 customers came in during the entire start of my shift. Just as things were wrapping up and I'd had a long quiet streak, a guy about my age came in and seemed to be in a great mood. He also had on a big hoodie, but it was cold out, so I didn't think anything of it. I said, "Let me know if you need anything," from where I was down by the shelves. He came and stood by me, kind of giggling. Weird, but I've seen weirder. Whatever. Finally, I said, "Can I help you?" And he just goes, hey, hey. So I'm like, "Hi," and he starts talking to me about the logo on my hoodie, a local sports team. We went back and forth for a bit. My side of the conversation was normal. His side was really overstated. In hindsight, it was probably because he was nervous, but I was kind of checked out and didn't really care at the time. Like, I'd say, "He's got a good arm, but his head just isn't in it this season." And this guy would reply, "Oh my gosh, the best arm, once-in-a-lifetime talent, but he's not there at all. Gone. Terrible. Useless. They should just cut him." I kept stocking the shelves, not really thinking about the odd nature of what he was saying. In the back of my mind, I was just wondering, is he going to buy something or what? From there, we actually got to talking about how we got into the game and had a really heartfelt conversation about going with our fathers and sitting in the cheap seats. We actually sort of bonded a little. Eventually, though, we ran out of sports commentary, and a wave of silence passed between us for a few minutes. Then he got uncomfortably close to me and whispered, "I like you a lot, you know that?" I took a healthy step back and told him, "Thanks, but no thanks." He laughed in a sort of wild way and explained that no, he meant he liked me, so he'd be willing to cut me in on what he was currently doing. I asked what that was. He explained, "There ain't nobody in here. I've got my truck outside. I'm gonna load it up with beer and stuff. You seem like a good guy, so I'm tipping you off in case you want anything. Ain't no one here. It's easy money, man." I couldn't believe it. He was trying to rob the store, and he was telling me about it. I quickly realized his overly excited and socially inappropriate behavior must have been the result of substance use, rather than confront someone who might be under the influence, since in my experience, their moods can shift from cheerful to aggressive very quickly. I just went with my gut and decided to play along. I knew I needed an excuse to get back behind the register, so I said, "Good idea. Forget the beer though, man. I'm going for the real easy money." I then hopped over behind the counter, where I promptly, but discreetly, pressed the button that locks the doors from the inside. Shortly afterward, I hit our brand new panic button. It was the first time I'd ever used it, and I was hoping there wouldn't be a second time. But at least I wasn't genuinely panicking yet. At this point, he had loaded both shoulders with 6 packs and headed for the door to make the first of what I'm sure he thought would be several trips. He pushed against the door with his hip, and of course, it didn't budge. He pushed pretty hard, expecting it to swing open easily, so I felt a little bad seeing him wince. He nearly dropped the beer. He turned to me, more frustrated than scared at this point, and said, "Dude, the door's jammed. Can you give it a try?" I was nervous to step out from behind the register in case this guy had a weapon, so I tried to deflect and said, "Maybe you've got to pull it." He started freaking out and ran around the store. He tried the back door, but that was locked as well. He even tried to climb up and reach the one tiny window we've got. But not only was it too high, it doesn't really fit a person. I kept playing dumb. Eventually, the police arrived. It took a while, and by the time they made it over, the guy had resorted to hiding in the stockroom, not before first wrecking a couple of aisles in his frenzy. But at least I was able to lock him in the stockroom once he went inside. They came in to arrest the guy, and he started trying to blame the whole thing on me, saying I set him up, saying I made him do it. It genuinely confused the police for a bit. So, to be clear, I don't work as a robber. I do work at the gas station. Though how much longer I'll stay there will probably depend on how many more robberies I have to endure. Story 3. I'm not normally a devious man, but even I have my limits. So this all started in high school in the early 90s. My best friend, we'll call her Jane, was in an on-again, off-again relationship with a guy we'll call Bill. Jane and I went back basically to birth. She was the bratty twin sister I never had. We lived next door to each other from the time I was 3. We were friends and never anything more. This was a strictly platonic friendship, so we grow up. Her family moves and go to different high schools in different parts of town. We kept in touch and caught up on everything in our lives. But during sophomore year, Jane met Bill in the theater program at her high school. From then on, there was no catching up, just listening to the relationship status of these two. Bill was fine, I guess, but he would go out with Jane for a while, then get bored of her, or tired of her energy, or whatever, and dump her. Jane would call me, and I'd play the role of the emotional pillow. A month later, when Bill got lonely, they'd get back together, and I'd hear about that too. For 2.5 years, it went on that way. At least 10 breakup get back together stories. Finally, her senior year, Bill breaks up with Jane 2 days before the spring formal. Jane calls me in tears and begs me to take her. I hated going to high school functions. I'm a high school teacher now and I hate going to them. But fine, I'm a friend, I'll take her. Because that's what friends do, right? So I spent 2 days and all my savings to get myself together for formal. Because of the late notice, everything in the city had already been rented. So my tux was out of date and a size too small. I'm 6'6". The shoes look like something a pimp would wear in the worst possible way, and the flowers are basically the leftover stems from everyone else. All the while, I'm getting scolded by everyone in flower and rental places because I should have planned for this weeks ago. But all this was fine. I'd be embarrassed for a friend. The night rolls around and I picked Jane up. We arrived at her school and I know nobody. The entire night of the formal, she tried to parade me in front of Bill to make him jealous or show that she was over him or something. All night, that was all she talked about. When she would run into one of her friends, it was all they could talk about. I felt poorly because clearly this wasn't about salvaging a good time and more about using me as a prop, a tool. And that's what I felt like, a tool. But on the plus side, I was pretty sure I'd never have to hear about Bill again. So 2 weeks later, Jane calls me up. She and Bill are back together. Oh no, hell no. Not this time. Nope times infinity. So I hatched a plan. Jane and Bill followed a certain pattern. And all I had to do was wait for what I called the pre-breakup call. This would be when Jane would call and tell me how immature Bill was being and assuring me that it would work out because they truly were in love. I got that call about 3 weeks after they got back together and immediately went into action. That night, I went to a grocery store and bought all the frozen squid I could find. About 11 pounds. I was working hard on the weekends doing construction work and had replenished my funds from the formal night disaster. I blew it all. Then I drove to her house at 2 in the morning and spent 15 minutes in a shadow behind her fence, hucking them into the backyard pool. The deck was littered with them, and the pool was unusable. I rained my calamari of vengeance all over her space. The next day, I get a call from Jane. At first I was afraid someone had seen me. But no, much like I had hoped, she was calling to complain about how Bill had thrown squid into her backyard. Oh sure, when she confronted him about it, he had denied it. But she assured me she could always tell when he was lying, just like she could with me. I had to put my hand over the receiver so she couldn't hear my smile. Yes, it was big enough to hear. But that time it stuck. I never had to deal with a Bill story again. Jane and I are both 46 now, and she still doesn't know the truth. It's not that we couldn't have a laugh about it or anything. It's just that I don't want her reconciling with Bill again. Story 4. I help my best friend who has a muscular condition and uses a wheelchair. 5 years of friendship made the routine simple: parking, assembling the chair, helping him move. Last Saturday, we went to the mall for clothes and lunch at an Italian place. Nothing special, just a weekend outing. I got a Spring Valley Mall around noon, looking for disabled parking. The mall was packed. I found one last disabled spot near the south entrance. It was close to both the department store and restaurant. I pulled in, happy we wouldn't have to cross the massive lot. I parked and saw a silver minivan waiting nearby. I got out to get my friend's wheelchair from the trunk. A woman called out from her minivan window. She looked mid-30s with sunglasses and was tapping her nails on the door. I looked at her and she asked if I was leaving. I told her I just parked. Her expression changed completely. She told me the spot was for disabled people. She said she was disabled and couldn't move properly. She said I looked fine and threatened to call security if I didn't move. I almost laughed. She hadn't seen the disabled placard in our window. I turned back and took out my friend's wheelchair. I told her my friend was disabled, not me. I said I needed to help him now and wished her a good day. She kept going. She said her daughter had a birthday party and they'd be late without my spot. She said they wouldn't be let in if they were late. I saw a girl about 8 years old in her back seat looking embarrassed. I said I was sorry but needed the spot for my friend. I mentioned her rudeness didn't make me want to help. Her face got red. She yelled I couldn't understand what having a child was like. She accused me of ruining her daughter's day. I said she was wasting time arguing instead of finding another spot. I suggested she should have come earlier. I said her poor planning wasn't my problem. I turned to the wheelchair and locked the brakes. Then I heard a car door slam and footsteps. The woman got out and ran toward me like a bull. She screamed she thought I was disabled, but could see I moved fine. She was so loud people stopped to look. My friend watched from the passenger seat in disbelief. What happened next seems unreal. This woman grabbed my friend's empty wheelchair. I thought she might steal it. Instead, she put her foot on the seat and pulled an armrest with all her strength. There was a terrible metal sound. She kept pulling until the wheel broke off the frame. Then she laughed and ran back to her minivan. She drove away with her horrified daughter inside. My friend and I sat in shock. A crowd gathered around us. An older couple asked if we were okay and offered to call security. Another shopper was already calling mall security. I told everyone she destroyed the wheelchair over a parking spot. Luckily, my friend keeps a backup chair for emergencies. It wasn't as comfortable, but would work for the day. Security came quickly, took our statement, and checked the cameras. They told us to file a police report. An officer came, took statements, and got the footage. We still shopped and had lunch, but the mood was ruined. My friend tried to laugh it off, but was upset. Having your mobility aid destroyed feels violating. 2 weeks later, the police called us. They identified the woman from her license plate and the footage. She was charged with destruction of property. She had to pay for a new wheelchair plus damages. The best part was what the officer told us about the birthday party. It was at Princess Palace, one of those expensive party places. When the woman finally arrived, they had given away her daughter's spot because they were late. She paid $300 for nothing. Karma works in mysterious ways. Story 5. So I have a story for you of my time working at Walmart. This is when I first started out at Walmart back in 2014. I was assigned to the electronics counter. It was near nighttime and the photo center was closed. It was only me at the stand while others were on break, somewhere in the store or at lunch. Plus business was slow, so it was fine when I was by myself. But oh boy was I wrong. It was about 15 minutes that passed when a teenager, the entitled daughter of our story, came up to the counter and placed a cell phone and the box on the counter while I was helping a father, who will be my hero in this story, and you will see why later. I asked the father if he would be all right by himself while I helped another customer, and he was fine with it, browsing the children movie section. I was about to ask how I can help her, but she just held her hand up at me. I remembered this very well when she did that. Entitled daughter, I want a refund on this phone. It doesn't work with the plan I have. I looked at the phone, and it was the Walmart plan we run with T-Mobile. It's usually not the greatest, but it's a good start on a cell phone plan before switching to the bigger ones, and when I looked at the receipt, I already knew this was going to be a handful. To those that don't know, all electronics items can be refunded, but you have to return it within 15 days to get it, especially when it's cell phones. Other items are usually 30 or 90 days, depending on the department. And when I looked at the receipt, it was way past the 15-day policy, so I couldn't return it. Me? I'm sorry, ma'am, but I can't refund this, as it has passed the 15 days return policy. Oh boy, did the entitled daughter not like that. What do you mean? My mom and I were here a few days ago when we got the thing. I'm sorry, but I can't. I'm looking at the receipt on the day you purchased this cell phone, and it's way past our policy. I'm sorry, but there is nothing that I can do. The entitled daughter lets out a growl and huffs before storming away with the cell phone and receipt. I sighed deeply and leaned into the counter. My hero then came with a few movies and saw the whole thing. That's pretty rough to deal with, huh? I just laughed at that and scanned his items. Me, oh, you have no idea, sir. And this is just my first month here. We both had a good laugh, and when I gave him his receipt, I saw the entitled daughter once again, but this time with her entitled mother in tow. I knew I was in trouble. Entitled mother, why wouldn't you give my daughter her money back? We brought everything. Me, I understand that, ma'am, but you passed our return policy. Even if I scan it, the serial number wouldn't be in our system anymore. The entitled mother then yelled at me to get the manager while calling me a few colorful names as well. While I phoned management, the mother and daughter had a smug grin on their face like they had won. Soon, a manager came by and asked what was the problem. Entitled mother, yes, your employee was rude to us and won't refund my daughter's cell phone she paid for a few days ago. I want my money now and this brat fired. Seriously, who does this over cell phones? But then again, Walmart, Wally World is also crazy people world. The manager looked over at me and I tried to explain what was happening, but the entitled mother kept interrupting me while calling me names until my manager saw the receipt. One look at the date and he knew what was up. Okay, ma'am, 2 things. 1, do not cuss at my employee. She is doing her job. And 2, you bought this phone a month ago. We can't refund you for the cell phone because the serial number is no longer on the system. And this is our policy. The entitled mother and daughter frowned at that and then started to cuss at me and my manager for not helping them and not letting them have their money back. My hero was watching the whole thing and he stood between us and them. Ma'am, you need to calm down, and you need to control your daughter as well. Entitled daughter, this is none of your business. Entitled mother, and why should I do what you say about my daughter? They're the ones that won't help us. She points at me and my manager, and this was something that I still remember to this day. My hero pulled out his wallet and showed a police badge. He was an off-duty cop. I suggest either you two calm down right now or so help me, I will escort you both out in cuffs. This is no way to act out in public. You need to set a better example for your daughter, and you need to control that mouth of yours, kid. The entitled mother and her daughter were dead silent and pale before grabbing the cell phone and the box, then running off. My hero turned over to us and apologized for not stepping in sooner. My manager told him it was fine, but I was still dumbfounded that I was helping an off-duty cop. My hero gave the manager his badge number in case those two came back, and then thanked me for suggesting a few Disney and DreamWorks movies for his kids. He told me he had a young son and a daughter before leaving. My manager asked me if I was okay, and I told him I was still baffled that my hero was a cop, and I didn't know that. And what was also funny, karma at its finest, that a few days later, the entitled mother and daughter did the same thing again, but at a different Walmart, and they were both arrested for assault on an officer and resisting arrest. My hero was talking to my manager while I was on lunch and then told me when I came back. So my hero, if you are out there or reading this post, thank you for helping me out that night. Story 6. Backstory: before I start this post, I want to get some facts out there. Firstly, I'm going to a college that has no student dorms, so you have to rent an apartment that's close enough for you to get to school. Second, this all happened almost a year ago, so wording is paraphrased a lot. And lastly, this post would be too long if I posted everything I experienced between these two, so I'm going to focus on one story and some background. I met my roommate when I moved down for college. I put a lot of money into the apartment furniture, the security deposit, and several months' rent, paying off my entire half of our lease. His mom practically screamed "drug addict" when I saw her. Though everything was always good between us, as far as I could tell. She also called me her second son a few times. In May of 23, my roommate's mom was flying down from her house to both visit her son and to bring the rent payment for that month. Our apartment was around 30 minutes from the airport, so, due to not having a car, we asked a friend to pick her up for us. On the day of the flight, I got a message from roommate's mom, RM, from now on. RM, hey, so I accidentally booked a flight for airport that's 2 hours away instead of local airport. I can send you some money out of the rent, and you can go rent a car to come pick me up. I talked with a good friend of mine who had been picking me up for school to see if we could use her car instead and have RM pay for gas. My friend agreed, and we set up to leave after our class, which was around 5 p.m. RM didn't like this at first because her plane landed at 3, so she would have 4 hours or so to kill before we could get there. But no matter what, it was going to be like that, and I explained that to her, so she agreed in the end again. Come the end of class, friend and I head out to start the journey to the other airport. While on the road, I get this text. RM, hey, so, you can just turn around and go back. I have some friends here, and I want to give them some gifts I brought down with me from home, and I don't want to waste your time. Me, a little annoyed that we had already been driving for 30 minutes, text her back. But friend and I are already on the road, and have been for 30 minutes. Plus rent is due tomorrow, and you have to pay it. RM and I have a little back and forth, but she then says she understands and gives me a new address to pick her up from. That's around 4 miles from the airport, where we were supposed to pick her up. Now, my friend and I have fun on this car ride, blasting music and talking video games until we are about 20 minutes out. I got a new text from RM saying her location has changed and that she got a hotel room and to just go back. My friend was not having any of it, though, because it had been almost 2 hours of tourist traffic. We go to college in a tourist state and we had a mission to do. When we get to RM's room, she actually agrees to come with us. Packs her things in the car, then asks if me and friend had eaten yet. We hadn't, since we both normally eat after class, so she handed me $100 to go to a local diner and said she was going to just drop off the presents with my friends. My friend and I eat, and when we come back, we get into friend's car and I text RM that we are here. Now, before I continue, we had left around 5 or 6 and got there around 10 due to the traffic. Dinner made us stay out until 11. Friend and I were tired and just wanted to go home. RM texted me back asking for 10 more minutes, which was annoying, but we agreed. And then another 10 minutes. And another. And another. This went on until 1 in the morning. At that point, friend had enough of it. We go to see where RM is at, and lo and behold, she's at a bar that opened at midnight. I text her saying to get out, or we would drop off her stuff with the bar and leave. While we needed her for my rent, my friend and I had class the next day, which was in less than 12 hours at that point. RM starting ranting about how I am a mother who doesn't get to see my son that you live with. You don't understand what it's like to be unloved and taking care of kids who hate you. So just piss off with it. You won't leave anyways. You need me to pay the rent. And if you leave me, I'll just go back home and you can suffer eviction. At this point, friend and I had enough of RM. For some extra context, at the time friend and I were both 18. We felt betrayed by RM, took her stuff out and left it with the bouncer who was outside the bar. We then name-dropped RM and got told, "Oh, stay the hell away from her if you know what's good for you kids, she's bad news." Friend and I had a laugh as we went back to the car. Now, a little extra info, we would have been fine waiting so long if it wasn't that. We had class the next day at 11. The car was leaking. Something. We were unsure what it was, and it seemed to just be a minor water leak. RM bitched at me on text as friend, and I drove away. We just laughed it off until the car broke down, and in the end we had to get a motel room so that friend's dad could come down the next day and try and help us fix the car. RM kept texting me and changed tone from angry to, "Are you okay?" This is why I said you shouldn't come. I just had this feeling something bad was going to happen. You should have stayed home and not come yada yada yada. Honestly, I just wouldn't respond other than my text of, "Because you wouldn't listen to me. Friend and I had to go to a motel to stay the night. Hope you're happy." Was I a bit mad? Yes, but I also had been up since around 8 a.m. and it was past 1 in the morning and I was done acting like I could put up with her. The next day, my friend's dad was pissed about what happened and said she was a lucky friend and I were 18, because otherwise he would sue the living crap out of her. I should mention, my friend's dad is a lawyer, don't mess with them. He took a friend and I out to get some lunch while we attended our class online with permission from the teacher due to what happened. Just a month after that happened, RM forced her baby boy to move out and back home with her. Mind you, her baby boy was the oldest in this group minus his mother in his mid-20s. They also tried to force the leasing office to remove his name from the lease because it was unfair that he wasn't living there and still had to pay. The leasing office did everything they could after he left. They worked with me until my money was all gone, around $10K, and I had to move out due to eviction. Although on records, they moved it to collections and only put my ex-roommate and his mom on the papers so that I wouldn't be bothered.